How do you make something awesome twice as awesome? Simple. Combine the awesome thing with something equally awesome, like a banana split, or an Irish coffee, or Under Pressure with Bowie and Queen. That's simple math. 3 times, the Shaw Brothers studio joined forces with other studios to do a spaghetti western, a Hammer horror flick, and a blaxploitation sequel. And I don't mean homages, I mean real studio collaborations with 2 directors each, pitting superstars against each other like Superman vs. Muhammad Ali, the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island, Zaitoichi vs. the One-Armed Swordsman. The Shaw Brothers were never shy about ripping off other studios' hits. Sexy Killer was just Coffee but set in Hong Kong. But sometimes the studios reached out across oceans and cultural barriers and begat a B-movie masterpiece.
All on the black baby.
The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires reads like a kid's spooky 12-inch record, and there was, in fact, a storytelling vinyl put out for this campy masterpiece. Horror legend Peter Cushing, playing, of course, Dracula's nemesis Professor Van Helsing, visits Hong Kong on a lecture tour. He is approached by David Chiang, member of a vampire hunting clan of brothers, and he is asked to lead an expedition to kill Dracula, who's been reincarnated as an elderly Chinese man. Ritual sacrifices have already begun. Chiang and Cushing set out, aided by Shi Tzu and requisite Norwegian hottie Julie Egge. The very idea of Peter Cushing and David Chiang fighting evil together is amazing. I do wish they'd integrated the cross-cultural conflicts more here.
In Europe, the vampire walks in dread of the crucifix. But here, it will be the image of the Lord Buddha.
The concept of horror is pretty different between China and England, and certainly between the Shaw Brothers and Hammer Studios. Seeing Cushing confronted by gooey Chinese body horror, or Chiang nonplussed by the stately, well-dressed Transylvanian count, would have been fun. Instead, each culture mostly sticks to its own set of tropes, as if the 2 films have been glued together. The Golden Vampires are not far off from the zombies of Finger of Doom or Black Tavern, with the exception of Dracula, who is a discount bin Christopher Lee. Yet overall, the movie is a fun romp. A dishonorable mention should probably also be made of the other Hammer-Shaw collaboration, Shatter. A thriller set in Hong Kong and Macau. The aesthetic and editing are painfully low budget, and the hero is so washed up you can understand why he needs T-Lung and Lily Lee as his backup. But honestly, seeing T-Lung reduced to playing Kato is more irritating than seeing Bruce Lee reduced to playing Kato. But maybe that's just because I enjoy T-Lung so much more than I enjoy Bruce Lee. Peter Cushing gives his all to a micro-role that, unsurprisingly, would be his last work for Hammer. It's a bad film that took years to be fully released worldwide, and received only a VHS release in the UK, which had funded most of the production. On the other hand, it has an epic soundtrack. The Shaws took the opposite approach with Stranger the Gunfighter, where the integration of 2 different styles is central to the narrative. The always great Lo Lieh and Lee Van Cleef, who is on my short list of actors who can spin Drek into gold, team up in the Old West. Lo Lieh is out for revenge and bumps heads with Van Cleef, who is chasing the same bad guys for a bounty. A few dollars more, anybody? But the 2 have good chemistry, if not quite as electric as Charles Bronson and Toshiro Mifune in the similar Red Sun. The buddy cop formula works here to mash kung fu and spaghetti westerns together, and they get the genuine blend right. Now, I don't want to be a party pooper, but I think this early Shaw's production shows the weaknesses of the Rush Hour and Shanghai Noon films. If you love those, cool. But in those later movies, a genre was picked, buddy cop and western, and then populated with Jackie Chan, Chris Tucker, and Owen Wilson essentially playing themselves. Story comes second to name recognition and the delivery of slapstick humor in each actor's special way. The genre is merely there to prop up a series of scenes.
It's okay. Okay? I call that one my Kung Pao chicken. I clothesline the sucker.
Finally, we have Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold. This, of course, is the follow-up to Cleopatra Jones, in which the towering Tamara Dobson was introduced, torching Afghan poppy fields and hunting down drug rings in the States. When two of her colleagues disappear in the midst of a drug bust in Aberdeen, Hong Kong, Cleo heads to Hong Kong to find out why. The men have become the forced guests of the Dragon Lady, a sinister drug queen who owns the titular Casino of Gold across in Macau. If you love the city of Hong Kong, this movie is a treat, with loads of beauty shots from 50 years ago. Tamara Dobson is flamboyant and fun. The credits proudly say that she designed her own makeup, and her costuming is the 70s at its finest. She's assisted in her quest by Tian Ni, who in real life eventually married Yue Hua. It's great seeing Tian Ni as a good guy here, since she's usually cast as the sexy bad girl. Aside from the costumes and slang, though, Casino of Gold doesn't have the trademarks of blaxploitation exactly. Cleo is sticking it to the man, or in this case the woman, and trying to root out the crime and drugs that are poisoning her community, but the Dragon Lady's triad connections feel distant and exotic, and not a direct threat to black Americans in general, as represented by crooked cops, the mafia, or turncoats, the sort of villains you find in Shaft, Superfly, or any 1970s Pam Grier film. It feels like Cleo has stepped into a Shaw Brothers crime drama, and that works. While the other two films I discussed glue together two genres at varying levels of success, Cleopatra Jones and the Casino of Gold has a heroine from one genre testing her mettle in another. It's closer in spirit to Shaft in Africa or Django Unchained, where the protagonist is dropped into a world that we didn't expect to see them in.
Sober.
I love the Shaw Brothers, I love Hammer horror, I love blaxploitation films, I like spaghetti westerns, and I really love a few of them. Are these three movies as good as the best in the genres they come from? No, but they're the equivalent of those insane Bloody Mary drinks that you see on the interwebs. You know, the ones topped with a slider and wings and everything else. You would not eat that every day, but it's kind of genius that somebody made it, and it's worth trying that at least once.